السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. Welcome brothers and sisters to Module 3, Lesson 11. Before we used to name it Lesson 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, but because it is going to be too confusing, we decided to change the number structure. So every week it's going to be added by 5. So of Learn Tajweed for Allah. Alhamdulillah, we are still going to be today dealing with Makharijul Huruf, places from which letters originate. That is the articulation point of letters. And today we are going to deal with a special aspect of the tongue, Taraful Lisan, the tip of the tongue. Makhrajun Noon, the articulation point of the noon. The noon is articulated from the tip of the tongue, Taraful Lisan, CA. And what is parallel to the upper gums, just above the teeth, that is the upper two incisors. That is the gum above the upper two incisors, and it drops just a little from the articulation point of the lam, CB and C. And it is accompanied by gunna, a singing song from the nasal cavity. So let us analyze these from the pictures. A, this is the picture A that I was talking about. We are talking about the Taraful Lisan, the tip of the tongue. We are not concerned about the rest, so that is why I didn't just bring in the tip of the tongue. The tip of the tongue, Taraful Lisan, which is parallel to the upper gum, which is demonstrated in B and C. This is the tip of the tongue here, right? The upper gum, the arrow points to it. The arrow points to it. And that is the upper gum of the top two incisors. This is accompanied by gunna from the nasal cavity, as you see, the arrow pointing to the nasal cavity. And you can see the effects of the gunna, so to speak, coming out very, very likely behind here, inshallah. So this is the articulation point of the noon. It is pronounced with the tip of the tongue touching the gum at the gum of the upper two incisors, just above the articulation point of lam, just above. Remember, we're coming from the back, so it's, well, we can say below the just beneath the articulation point of the lam, and it's accompanied by a gunna from the nasal cavity. General information about noon. Pronouncing the noon has two aspects: A, from the tongue, and B, from the nasal cavity. So when they come together, these two aspects come together, the correct sound of noon is produced. This letter is pronounced clearly in the following two cases. A, when it has a vowel on it, like it has a fatha, noon fatha, na, noon kasra ni, noon dhamma nu, or it has a sukoon on it, and it is followed by one of the 6 letters of the throat, the hamza or the ha, or the ain or the ha, or the ghain or the kha. It has a sukoon and it is followed by one of these letters. In all the other cases, regardless of what other letter comes after it, if it has a sukoon, right, it is not clear and not pronounced from its makhraj because of other rules that apply to it, right? So inshallah we will deal with that later. Note, the articulation point described previously is only applied when it is pronounced clearly, when the noon is pronounced clearly. Common mistakes in this letter. This letter is very easy to pronounce, so mistakes in articulating it are few. The most common mistake is that of using too large an area of the tongue and including the top of the tongue in the pronunciation instead of the tip. The articulation point of ra, makhrajul ra, the articulation point of ra. The ra is articulated from the tip of the tongue, Taraful Lisan, and what is parallel to the upper gum, that is just above the two upper incisors and near to the articulation point of the noon. Let us analyze the pictures. Here's the picture of the tongue, and all we're interested in again is the tip of the tongue. The tip of the tongue. So this is what is important in this part, articulation of ra. Here we are going to have the pictures of the tip of the tongue from a lateral view, side view. inshallah, we have the tip of the tongue, taraf al-lisan, and we have also the upper gum. That's how it touches. Okay, so both picture shows you the upper gum, and here we see the two incisors very clearly on picture C. So that is the articulation point, because it has to touch the gum that is above the two incisors, the upper two incisors, like in the case of the noon. This is the articulation point of ra. Common mistakes in the ra, or in pronouncing the ra. The first and most common mistake is pronouncing the ra like the English R, which is articulated without the tongue striking on any part of the mouth. So many native English speakers have to practice a bit or a lot to say the R correct, the ra correctly. Secondly, not allowing the tip of the tongue to strike the gum. One should physically feel the tip of the tongue hitting the gum of the two top front incisors. That is very important, because that is the makhraj of the ra. Third, another mistake is repeated trilling or rolling of the tongue. Arr, that is pronouncing a consonant. That trilling is producing a consonant by rapid vibration of the tongue against the hard or soft palate. When pronouncing the ra, so there's repeated trilling or rolling of the tongue when pronouncing the ra. The scholars have cautioned against this. This usually can be fixed by leaving a small space for the tongue to run out at the very tip of the tongue. If the tip is up tight against the gum, there is no place for the tongue to run. Pressure builds up and prevents the incorrect excessive trilling. Let us practice this letter with vowels. So we come to the end of these two letters, alhamdulillah, and we praise Allah for allowing us to complete Module 3, Lesson 11. I'm really sorry that I couldn't produce this set of slides earlier. Please forgive me for this, inshallah, but I plan to do all the rest in time. So may Allah help us and guide us and straighten us. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.